In this episode of our manual on nonviolent struggle, we will talk about planning, an essential part of every strategic nonviolent movement. Of course, you can make plans as you go, but this way you will simply end your nonviolent struggle even faster than you started. So, get serious, sit down and do some planning. In nonviolent struggle, as well as in your life, you will need two types of planning: strategic and tactical. Imagine it as a pyramid that will give you a great overview about what you want to achieve. You will need to set your overall goals first and ask yourself, what are the strategic goals I have to achieve? What are the social groups and institutions I will need to win over before the final victory? How will I involve the most important allies in this struggle? How will the goals be achieved and what are the long-term consequences? You will also need to think about tactical goals and targets when you are envisioning your strategy. What exact types of actions and tactics will you need to address each of your strategic goals? How will you prepare and perform these tactics? Which resources will you need for each one of them? Sometimes you and your fellow activists will be tempted to get engaged in everyday struggles. You will get sucked into day-by-day tactics and it will seem that you don't have time for planning. But remember, strategy without tactics is just wishful thinking, and tactics without strategy is only noise before the defeat. Now we will need to understand the difference and relationship between strategic and tactical planning. It's like planning your trip from the top of the mountain to the end of the river that lies under the mountain. Strategists and campaign planners are wise and patient people who think many steps ahead. Plan from the top of your movement and see the wider picture of challenges and opportunities that lie ahead of your journey. Tacticians and activists under the mountain often see, though very clearly, only the immediate situation in which they are operating. Unlike strategy, the tactical planning is often immediate, constantly changing, and demands a keen understanding of the realities on the ground. So you will need both kinds of people in your movement, those who can see and plan far ahead and deeply, and those skilled in driving your movement through everyday challenges. Now, let's get back to practical advice for your planning. Successful leaders always plan only one way, backwards. What is so special about this method? Instead of going from your starting point to your goal, you do exactly the opposite. You start with your imagined goal and work your way back to the present, step by step. Then, you put a calendar in front of you and think, who is going to do what, when, how, and why? To make this simple, imagine that you need to plan a simple birthday party for a friend. First, you imagine everybody dancing, eating cake, having fun, and your friend opening the gifts. So, ahead of the event, you'll need to buy a gift, hire a DJ, good sound equipment, and order a cake. And even on the day after the party, you need to assign a few tasks, like washing the dishes or throwing out the garbage. Similarly, every victory in nonviolent struggle needs backwards planning. As parties need cakes and music and presents, successful demonstrations need placards, flags and training for your activists, days, weeks or even months ahead of the event. You will also need all kinds of follow-ups after the event is over, from sending out press releases, posting photos of the event on social media and many other things. So, you start with envisioning the tactics in your head and plan backwards to make it happen. One last piece of advice. Things might look great when you envision them, but you will need a reality check from time to time. As Winston Churchill taught us, however beautiful the strategy, you should occasionally look at results. Keep that in mind until we see each other again in our next episode when it's time to talk about propaganda.